Hello, and welcome to another Unbiased Gear Review. Today we are doing a pickup shootout with Fishman 8-string pickups. So the reason why we're doing this video is because we saw a fundamental need on YouTube and in the guitar community online in general. We saw that there was a lot of people that were very interested in Fishman pickups, but there wasn't really a whole lot of comparison online. Just people with various preferences, like we don't like this, we do like that, but not really getting into specifics and also not really showing the differences. So that's why we decided to do this video. 3 different 8-string sets from Fishman, and you now get to see what is the actual difference between all 3 sets. For those of you that don't know, Fishman is a company that's been around for a while, mostly known for their onboard preamps and their piezo pickups that you would find in various different acoustic models, but recently has been branching out into electric territory with their Fishman Fluence line.
The difference between what Fishman does and other previous pickups that were available, in a passive pickup, for the most part, you have a magnet, whether it's ceramic or Alnico, and wire wound various different ways to different lengths and different type wire with different types of pull pieces, and the combination of those different things get you your sound.
Mm-hmm. So now the differences in like the types of magnets and wire has been waxed eloquent about in various online forums and all over the internet for ages. So we're not going to delve into that so much in this video.
In addition to passives, there are your EMGs and Seymour Duncan Blackout Actives, which are technically lower output pickups, but they have an onboard preamp in each pickup that takes that signal and compresses and amplifies it. And there are things about both of those pickups that people like and dislike. Mm-hmm. So what Fishman did is they took the concept behind a passive pickup and looked at the underwhelming parts of that, which are the noise that you get with passives and the inconsistencies. And then I can probably take two Gibson pickups from the 70s and get two pickups made from the 90s that are the same model, but they sound different because you get different wires and different things that lead to some inconsistencies. And they took the things that people didn't like from active pickups, which compressed tones, sterile, not responsive, lifeless, and they said, we're just not going to incorporate those. So what they did to get rid of the differences with the wire is they're actually incorporating printed circuit boards, magnets, and preamps. So that all sounds really good. The biggest difference is that their pickups all offer 2 or 3 different voices in addition to a couple other different tone shaping options on the pickups themselves. So you can get a huge range of tones with one set of pickups.
So the first pickup set that we'll go over is also the first one that you heard on this video, which is the modern set. Now, what's cool about the modern set is that this is kind of the prototypical metal humbucker set that Fishman offers. This is the set that whenever you look up videos online, you'll find guys like Ken Susi from Unearth, Pat from Fit for an Autopsy, and various other players all raving about how much they love this pickup set. This is the pickup set that's been drawing so many players away from other pickup companies. So as far as the specs, there's not really a whole lot to go over. Everything is pretty much bar magnets. In the case of the Bridge modern humbucker set, it comes with a ceramic 8 magnet, and in the case of the neck, it comes with an Alnico 5.
The way that I would describe this modern set, especially the Bridge, in terms of feel, is everything you've ever wanted out of an EMG 81. It's got that really nice, aggressive mid-range without being quacky. It's tight in the low end. It's got present highs. I mean, that sounds like a generic description of every pickup. But this is the pickup that actually delivers on all the things that people advertise.
Yes. Whereas what's different about it versus most of the other big manufacturers of actives, though, is that it is substantially more dynamic, and also none of those frequencies are really... none of them are overbearing at all. You don't get a shrill high end, you don't get a really, really massive thumping low end. You just get something that is present kind of all across the board without being overpowering.
Yeah, and keep in mind in the videos that we did everything on here with a Peavey Invective profile, no boost, everything set to noon to be pretty neutral, gain is around 1 o'clock, and on the DI signal, we're seeing on the low end, it really started to trail off around 250 hertz. So it's enough where it's got some punch to it, but it's not boomy, tuned down to F on an H string.
There was also plenty of lower mids too, though, but where we saw a little bit of a peak on this particular model was around 1 kilohertz for the mid-range, which is a really nice place for that to be. It tends to lend itself to some really singing lead tones in that area, but also the rhythms are powerful enough that they can cut.
Yeah, and then on the high end, it started to trail off kind of perfectly the whole way after the upper mids, and then at 5K, everything really jumped off. So it's got enough sizzle for high gain, but it's not super fizzy.
Exactly.
With that gain up at 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
Now, on the second voice, this is set up more as replicating a passive style pickup. And I don't know off the top of my head a passive pickup that comes to mind with this, because it still has some of those active feelings of it doesn't have the noise, but it's very responsive. On the low end, we were seeing it's a little bit lower. It's down at 200 hertz, so it's got more low end. There was even some down around 100.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit more round in the passive voice.
And also in terms of the mid-range, you tended to have a very, very even and very present mid-range from honestly all the way from 500 hertz up to about 1.5 kilohertz.
Yeah. Little bit more highs than the modern active voice. Still not overly bright. Probably see that a little bit more in the clean tones, how it chimes a little bit more for that stuff. But again, not fizzy at all.
Yeah. And in terms of comparing it to comparing voice 2 to voice 1, there really wasn't as much of a difference in output, though, was there?
I mean, it was minor. I felt like, and we'll be able to see this in the screen caps of the curves, I mean, the passive voice is a little bit quieter.
Yeah.
But it's not as drastic as the other sets that we're going to go over.
Yeah.
In terms of feel for rhythm stuff, which I'm primarily that guy, and you can speak more to the lead tones, Voice 1 on the moderns, I've had those in the Strandberg for a long time and really, really like it. And could have been totally fine just using that forever and had no issues with it. I really like the modern.
I really do too. Still keeping in line with talking about the rhythm tones, I actually... I know you disagree with me a little bit on this, but I actually really like Voice 2 a lot as well, but still Voice 1 was definitely my favorite between the two. So, it's, you know.
You're allowed to feel that way.
I know. So as far as like the lead tones go, I mean, the bridge pickup just tended to have a lot of cut to it. The neck pickup had a little bit more of a vintage flavor, partially because of that Alnico 5 magnet that's in there. But make no mistake about it, this is still an active pickup set. And when I say it had more of a vintage flavor, that just means in comparison to what a lot of these other sets had, honestly. It was still very, very modern sounding. Perfect for the modern player, but if you're looking to play something more like dad rock, probably not your thing. Then again, this is an 8-string pickup set, so not a lot of dad rock to be found. Now, we move on to something that is honestly kind of a chore. We have to talk about the Stephen Carpenter signature set, which was kind of your first foray into the Fishmans.
Yeah, I started with this set in my Strandberg.
Not the most awesome thing in the world, and that's kind of putting it mildly. So the Stephen Carpenter set has a tweaked voicing compared to the modern set. Same magnets. You're still looking at a ceramic 8 in the bridge, and you're still looking at an Alnico 5 in the neck. But the mid-range, according to the description online and also according to what we saw, the description says that it has a slightly tweaked mid-range on Voice 1. I would say that slightly is a very, very dramatic understatement.
Yeah. I don't get any sense of the soul of the modern being in this pickup at all.
No. And it was pretty much just a lot of everything as far as the frequencies go. There was a low end that honestly was just like about 100 hertz to about 250 hertz. Just kind of very, very present all across the board right there. You had a mid-range that was extremely present, but had a little bit of a peak around 500. What about the treble?
So, well, in addition to that lower mid spike that's in there, there was another spike around 1,000, and it was pretty high, still around the 5K range. So it's just the joke that I made when we were looking at the parametric EQ curve is this looks like a turtle shell.
Yeah.
There's just a lot, and then holy crap, there's everything.
Yep.
In the middle. And then we get to voice 2.
Ugh.
And we thought maybe this will be a more reserved passive sound.
Nope.
And no, voice 2...
All the lows.
All of them.
All the lows. Jesus fucking Christ.
There's a big spike around 100, and you thought, that's pretty low. But no, it keeps going and doesn't really trail off until it gets down to 20. And if you're not familiar with what 20 hertz is, that's an F sharp. A low F sharp on a bass.
Yeah.
That's not people tones.
That's like super sub low right there.
Right, and it's such a difficult area to hear in a mix. The guitar has no business crowding up that little bit of real estate that's available for the bass guitar and the kick drum.
Yeah.
There's just no reason for that to be pushed from a pickup. But on the highs, because we thought we have a lot of lows, so maybe it gets reasonable in the highs.
Nope.
No. We were still seeing quite a bit of signal in the 20K range.
Oh, Jesus.
So we have super low bow shaking range, and we also have dog whistle highs. And it's hotter than the first voice.
Yeah. Which was really, really weird.
It
was loud.
It's an obnoxious pickup that if you want to hear some really terrible cleans, you heard them. We got them.
Yeah. Don't even get me started on the lead tones. I didn't find them usable at all.
No.
At all.
It was painful for us to record every little section here. We've talked about inspiring pickups, stuff that's fun to play before. This is the opposite of that. I can't put a guitar down fast enough when it has these pickups in it.
Yeah.
Don't buy these.
But the great news is that, like with all the Fishmans, the quick connects on the back of them are pretty universal. So, hey, no problem. Just take out the pickup and put in something that absolutely kicks ass.
Yes.
Like the Moderns or like the Tosins, which we're about to get into.
Right.
So now on to the Tosin Abasi signature set, which, gotta be honest, for me, that was honestly my favorite out of the three.
Might as well.
Yeah. So with this one, we saw a little teensy tiny bit of difference in the tone versus the modern set on voice 1. The main difference that you saw was there was just a little bit more of a low-end presence around 200 hertz, whereas opposed to the modern set has more of just a peak around 250. For the Tosin set, between 200 and 250 was fairly consistent. The mid-range still had a peak around 1 kilohertz, but from about 500 to about 1K, it was a lot more present in the Tosin set. So when you read the description online about how it's got a more even mid-range that doesn't interfere with the lows and highs, that seems to be what they're referring to, just a more modern, focused mid-range in that frequency range.
Right. It's one of the things that we were talking about, that we grew up, that modern to us was 2005. So the modern is kind of what we would call modern.
Yeah.
And the Tosin set is really 2017 modern mid-range.
Yes.
I mean, it's not that we like a scooped tone, but we don't like a really pushed, quacky mid-range. And this doesn't have that, but you could easily boost your mids and your amp or your Sims or whatever you're running and get that really genty, quacky mid-range tone that some people really like.
Yeah. What about for voice 2?
Voice 2, they describe it as just a really balanced passive tone. And that's really the only way that I know how to describe it. Like the moderns, It's the lows go a little bit deeper, so we see 150 to 200 hertz. We're seeing a lower mid emphasis around 500 instead of the upper mid emphasis, and the same high end. It's almost exactly the same. It's present, but it's not shrill.
And it cuts very, very nicely, but it also was substantially lower output. It was a lot quieter, more in line with what you would typically find from like a more vintage style passive humbucker.
Yeah, it's like a medium output humbucker, which lent itself very well to the clean tones that we get in the tapping sections that you were doing on there. It's probably worth mentioning that there is a third voice available on Tosin's pickups that we weren't able to do just because of limitations in the electronics that I have. His third voice is what he refers to as a really glassy single coil tone, and we've been able to hear that, and I've never heard a better description of a pickup when I played it. I wish we could have shown that to you guys. It sounds and feels exceptional.
Oh, yes. All right, so I know what you're asking. You're saying, Arnold, Chad, what are you guys drinking today? Well, today we are drinking from Arcadia Ales, their barrel-aged Shipwreck Porter. It pours a very, very dark brown with a creamy tan head.
Oh, I can smell that already.
I know, right? I can smell the alcohol, dude. This is 12% ABV with 50 IBU, so maybe expect a little alcohol bitterness. Let's check. It's tasty. Malty.
It's not super malty.
Yeah.
It's got a little bit of it, but the alcohol kind of overpowers that.
A little bit, yeah. So I detect a little bit of almost a cherry flavor to it. Just a little teensy bit.
Like some tartness.
Yeah.
This isn't the most portery porter I've ever had.
Yeah.
It doesn't have like that coffee
kind of espresso
like tinge to it. I mean, it's there a little bit, but the alcohol kind of overpowers it.
Yeah, the fact that it's barrel aged kind of makes it a little bit stronger than a typical porter, and it's kind of overpowering a lot of the other notes that you can tell in there. I am tasting a little bit of the maltiness, a little bit of vanilla, but a lot of the barrel.
Everything is just drowned out by the barrel. It's good, but if you wouldn't have told me that this was a porter, I don't know that I would have
believed
guessed.
Me. Yeah. All right.
I would drink this.
Yep. I will drink this too.